Morning, everyone. If I could just have everyone on their feet for 2 seconds, I think maybe we can get some energy in this room. So if you could all stand up for me, that would be great. And if it makes you feel any better, I have done this with lots of people, so you won't be the first to look silly. So if you could all just join me and spell Zona with your hips. So you start with a Z. Come on. Do an O, another O, an N, an A. All right, thank you. Before you sit down, though, I'd like you to do one more thing for me. If you could take your right leg and if you could spin it in a clockwise direction. Have you got that? Now, with your right hand, draw the number 6. What has happened to your leg? That is one of the ways I see entrepreneurship. It is the amazing ability to change direction and get us doing something different. So please be seated. So certainly to all the sponsors, thank you very much for this amazing event. To the organizers, I'm pretty sure it must have been a huge amount of work, so well done to all of you getting everyone here. I'm certainly very humbled and very privileged to be here. I hope whatever I've got to say is of some interest to some of the emerging entrepreneurs in the room, because certainly it is to you I'm speaking. About 8 years ago, my brother was somewhere in the eastern province, I think it was Nyimba, and he was in a cotton field trying to persuade an old lady who was a rural cotton farmer that rather than receive cash, she should receive money into a cell phone. And we were getting nowhere, and it was probably about the 100th cotton farmer we were meeting, and we were totally disillusioned, and we really felt we were about to give up. And we kept on saying, no, you can get your money onto a cell phone. And eventually the guy with Owen turned around to her and he went, no, it's Zona. And she went, it's Zona. And she signed, and that was our first customer. And my brother and I weren't all that great at Nyanja, still aren't. And it took us to go back to the car to Owen and say, well, what does this word Zona mean? And they said, it's real, it's true. And that's how our company got its name. So 8 years ago, my brother and I had a vision that through entrepreneurship, through being unreasonable, through mobile technology, and by choosing to work with awesome and amazing people, that we could fundamentally change the African transactional landscape. When we started the business, we couldn't find more people who would tell us that we were crazy, that we were wrong, that we'd never be able to do it, that we wouldn't be able to take on the banks, that we wouldn't be able to take on the mobile network operators like MTN and Airtel, that we would fail, that the Bank of Zambia would never give us a license, that no one would trust us with their money. But as much as they told us we'd fail, we used it as fuel. Since we started, 2.5 million Zambians have transacted over $1 billion on our platform. In the last 90 days, 1.5 million Zambians have trusted us and sent over $80 million on our platform. We've created 2,500 jobs. We have 1,500 active entrepreneurs today. We've paid over $10 million of commissions to our entrepreneurs. 70% are women under the age of 25 years old. And I don't share these numbers for any other reason that they're just part of a journey. In the next 3 years, we want to have 30 million active customers. We want to be in more than 10 countries. So it's really just a stepping stone for us. The other thing, again, to all the emerging entrepreneurs in this room is I share that that's where we are today, but we came from very humble beginnings. I know one of the speakers later on today is Sipho Piri. And when Zona started, I rented one room from him. And at that time, we couldn't afford to even buy a desk. So I went down to Beleni and I got my 25 clay bricks. I don't know if you've seen, I don't know if they still make the bricks down there, but they make those clay bricks. And I went to Kalingaling and I bought a door. And I put the door on top of the bricks, and that was, I then also had to go and ask my wife if I could borrow one of our dining room chairs. And that then became my office for the next year. So I think it's always important that wherever you see a business, it always started somewhere small, and I think that's important to keep in mind. So I guess I was wondering why I was asked to speak today. I think for one reason, as an entrepreneur, I'm still standing, and I think that's always a good thing. And I think the other reason is probably I have very strong roots in Zambia. Both my parents were born in Chingola. I was born in Kitwe. My other brother was born in Kitwe. My other two brothers were born in Kalalushi. My dad still lives in Kitwe, and two of my brothers, one lives in, Kulumbila, and the other one also lives in Kitwe. When I was 8 years old, my parents got divorced, and my mum moved to Singapore. So my brother and I went to boarding school in South Africa, and we'd have one holiday in Singapore, one holiday in Zambia. And it was always amazing to me how when I'd go to Singapore, everything was just getting bigger and better. And when I'd come home to Zambia, things were the same as when I left them, and maybe even less so. So I think it was always very built into me that I had a strong connection with Zambia and a willingness to try and make things better to the best of my ability. So what I thought I would do with you today is just share 11 fundamental truths that I believe in around entrepreneurship. They're my personal opinions. The beauty about feedback is if they mean nothing to you, you can just ignore them. But I hope in some way they might resonate with you as things that I've used on our journey to help motivate and inspire me and keep me grounded. So my first truth, and I didn't have bacon and eggs for breakfast this morning because I'm on a diet. But when you have bacon and eggs for breakfast, the chicken is involved, it lays the egg, but the pig is committed. It's there on the plate for you. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be a pig, not a chicken. So all I'm saying by that is so often I meet young entrepreneurs and they say, I've got this great business idea, but it's just not the right time. And I'm sharing with you that it'll never be the right time. So the right time is now. And you've got to understand that it's an all-consuming commitment. It's a passion. It's a drive. It will take everything you've got, and you've really got to commit to do it. So my second thing that I fundamentally believe in, and it often upsets young entrepreneurs when I meet them. So please hear the key message that I'm sending and not the opening line. But your idea is worthless. Your idea in isolation is actually worth nothing. In Africa, people will not invest in an idea. They will not give you money just for an idea. People invest in traction and talent and teams. So my encouragement to you is if you're sitting thinking about starting a business going, I've got an idea, why won't anyone give you money? They're not going to, or very rarely. Equally, if you're thinking about, I can't start a business because I haven't got money, you're thinking about the wrong thing. The two things as young entrepreneurs or emerging entrepreneurs you should be thinking about is, first and foremost, your customer. Truly understanding what your customer's pain point is so that you can go and deliver value that they will be prepared to pay for. Because the moment someone pays you for something, you have revenue. The moment you have revenue, you have options. Without revenue, you're at the mercy of other people, which is never a good place to be. And the other thing you must always be thinking about is talent. The people you can bring into your business that can help you run it. The top 10 hires you make, or the first 10 hires, or the first 10 people that join you on your journey will be absolutely key to defining the culture of your business and the success of your business. We were very fortunate to get a young Canadian guy called Mike Quinn, who's now our partner and our CEO. And for the first 3 years of working with us, every single payday, he would give us 50% of his wages to buy shares in the business. So that's the level of commitment you need to surround yourself with to truly focus and grow a business. So the third thing I fundamentally believe in, and for the entrepreneurs here, is your greatest threat is something you yourself can control. The greatest threat will be your inability to focus. I think often as entrepreneurs, we're like a kid in a candy store. We think, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And equally, I think the other thing that's really dangerous is people assimilate risk. They think if I have 5 or 6 businesses, maybe one of them will work and the other 5 won't, but then at least I'll be okay. But the reality is the more you dilute yourself and the more you try and do too many things, the less effective you will get at any of them. At Zona, we have grown by choosing one market to launch in, which was Zona. Which was Zambia. We've since gone into other markets, but for the first 5 years, we focused on one market and one simple product, and we were relentless in our discipline around that focus. So I would strongly encourage you, if you've got 5 businesses or 3 business, choose one business and choose only to do 1 or 2 or 3 things really, really well. So the fourth thing to our young entrepreneurs I believe in is, I think people spend far too much time thinking and talking and not enough time doing. It's really important that, it's great to have a great idea, that's cool, but the only way you can truly know if it's great is to get into the field and test it with customers. We have a motto, which is act, learn, repeat. We're constantly acting, we're constantly doing, we're constantly making mistakes, but through that we learn. And then as we learn, we repeat and we do it again more and more. So I think my message to you is focus on those customer pain points and you'll get there a lot quicker. Sorry, I do have a little page to turn here. So my fourth thing that we fundamentally believe in is that in every single industry, there's one particular choke point. There's one thing that can truly unlock a pain point for a customer. So if you're going to start a business, understand your customer so well so you know the one thing that's truly important to them, and then the only thing you should concentrate on as your business is to be 10 times better than anyone else at that one thing. So using Zona as an example, when we launched, we were competing against MTN Money, we were competing against Airtel Money, we were competing against the post office that had been around for a long time, and in certain ways we were competing against the established bank sector. But the one thing we decided to focus on, which we felt was the biggest customer pain point, was to provide people with a simple, easy, quick way to cash in and cash out. And that is the one thing we built our business on. And by being 10 times better than anyone else at that one thing, we were able to do it. People often say, I've never seen a Zona radio advert. I've never seen a Zona TV advert. We knew we could never be better than the big companies at that. So we chose one thing that we would dominate, and that no matter what anyone else did, as long as we were better than them at that, we would win. I was very impressed with both all the messages that I heard around working in challenging times. And one thing I would say to all of you here is nothing great was ever created in easy times. Nothing great was ever created when people were chilling and relaxing. I think the fact that scarcity should be celebrated, because really that is where great inventions and great innovations happen. I think Zambia is a tough startup environment. I think as entrepreneurs, there are easier places for you to grow and start a business, but I'd encourage you to use this challenge to your advantage, because in this scarcity, in this toughness, you will grow and forge strengths as an entrepreneur that can really mold you. I think one of the key things, though, to understand is the environment is tough, but then constantly work to change your environment. So one of the things we did at Zona, and when we started the business, we realized that our young entrepreneurs didn't have the working capital to start the business, so we lent them the working capital. What we then realized is there was so much social and family pressure on that money that at the end of the month they had bills to pay, things to do, their business wasn't profitable on day one. So over 5 years, we've built a cohort, which is we've looked at our top performing agents and we've tracked their transactional history, and we've gone back and said, well, what did our good agents do on day 1, day 7, month 1, month 6? And if our agents perform within those cohorts, we now cover all their initial operating expenses for up to 15 months to create an environment that entrepreneurs can flourish and grow. Because if you're constantly under pressure, you don't really get that opportunity. Again, my next truth for all of you that are starting small, I think in today's world of technology and disruption, David will always beat Goliath. You do not have to be scared of the big companies. They have so much technical debt. They've got so much stuff they've invested in so many years that with the technology available to you, you can leapfrog them in leaps and bounds. All it is about is really, truly understanding your customer pain points, and being able to pivot around meeting their needs. If you can build a business that responds quicker with more agility and more change management to real customer issues, you will always be able to outcompete the big businesses. What I would encourage you to do is don't go and try and eat their lunch, because then they will come after you and they've got big pockets. Rather create something that's not there, and they'll never be able to catch up with you. The one thing I think I would really like you to really take heart of today is for entrepreneurship to truly flourish in Zambia, we have to learn to embrace failure. We have to see that failure is a stepping stone to success, and if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. At Zona, we have one philosophy with our employees. If you fail on integrity, you have failed. If you fail on anything else, you were brave enough to try. I think it's important that as Zambians, we stop assimilating risk, and most important, we celebrate tall poppies. When you see successful people or people on the path to success, celebrate them. And when you see people that have fallen down on their journey, lift them up. I think there's nothing more credible than a brave entrepreneur trying, and I think as a society, it's going to be critically important that we support them in that role. Again, as businesses start to grow, I think there's a great saying, one day chicken, next day feathers. I think it's very important as an entrepreneur that you never think you've made it, that you stay humble, that you stay grounded, that as much as you reach for the stars, you keep your feet on the ground. If I think back to my own career, I mean, maybe a show of hands, does anyone remember the comic Super Strikers? Okay, so Super Strikers was my brother and I's first business in Zambia, and that business doesn't exist today, like 3 of the other businesses we also started. So I think you've got to accept that as you go on this journey, that there's progress, there's winnings, there's losings, and I think that's important. But through all of that, I think it's important just to stay focused. The other thing I think that's really important as an entrepreneur is people often say they're going to start a business to be their own boss. Once you start a business, you actually work for everyone. You work for your staff to make sure they get paid. You work for your customers to make sure they get their service delivery. And to this day, none of our executive team have company cars. None of us have offices. The only company asset I have is my laptop. And I think it's really important to send that message that as you grow, to really, really stay grounded. 9 out of 10 businesses fail, startups fail. So I think, as you're sitting here, you've got to understand that the chance of failure is high. But what's really encouraging is some of the most successful businesses are founded by people that it wasn't their first try. They'd failed at 2 or 3 other businesses and then came on one that had worked. In 2012, when we raised our first $4 million, one of the main reasons given by our American investors was that they recognized in us that we had failed. We had the humility and the business savvy that we'd fallen down, and we were just brave enough or resilient enough to pick ourselves back up. I think one of the key reasons business fails, though, is taking money from the wrong people. So I think it's very important as you start your business, your equity is your gold. And it's fundamentally important that you bring on partners who are not paper tiger partners, that they'll walk through the door with you, that'll go the extra mile with you, and most important, are committed to your vision. Because the 2 greatest dangers when raising funds are you raise them on bad terms and you have to pay too high interest and your business collapse, or you raise them with people that don't support your dream as an entrepreneur and you get pushed to the wayside. Unfortunately, I was speaking to one of the bankers earlier on today. Interest rates here are 40%. That's crazy. I don't know how any young entrepreneur can start a business in that environment. To this date, we've raised $22 million, and none of it has been from Africa. So I would strongly encourage the people that have access to funds to really look at innovative ways and affordable ways to set up businesses. You can't start a business on 40% interest rates. You'll either really be detrimental to your customer or you'll kill your own future cash flows. Again, coming back to the entrepreneurs, one of my favorite quotes is, "Those that danced were thought crazy by those that could not hear the music." So as entrepreneurs, you probably still, unfortunately, are in the minority in Zambia, but celebrate that. The fact that no one can hear the beat that's bopping in your brain should not make you any less confident. Essentially, you should celebrate the fact when you speak to your family and they think you're crazy, or you speak to your friends and they don't understand your great vision and dreams, or you speak to your bank manager and he says, "Who on earth would give you money?" Do not let that demoralize you. Celebrate that, because they cannot see what you have inside of you, and that is what makes you special. I was told a great story once that when 2-year-olds are asked if they can sing, every single 2-year-old will put up their hand saying, "Yes, I can sing." I bet you if I asked people in this room to put up their hand if they could sing, probably very few of us would. So what happens from 2 when we think we can sing until adulthood when we decide we can't sing? And I feel that's a key message to send around entrepreneurship. You'll be told it's too risky, you'll be told it's crazy, but I encourage you to be brave and keep trying. My last belief to share is I believe in businesses of purpose. I think there's so many opportunities in Zambia. To the young entrepreneurs in the room, choose things that can fundamentally change Zambia for the better. I think it's important for 3 reasons. 1, it's good for Zambia. 2, it'll be good for your soul. Starting a business is incredibly difficult. If you're doing it just to make money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I think critically important that you really find something that you can connect to with as a person and you really feel can make a difference to you and your community. I think also it's a great way of attracting talent. In today's world, gone are the days where you can manage and motivate people on a carrot and stick. It's far more important for people to be intrinsically connected to society and making a positive contribution to the world of today. At Zona, every single employee has shares in our business, and that's our way of keeping everyone connected to our purpose. And I think it's important as you grow your business to focus on your North Star, to have strong culture and strong values. In Zambia, about 6 months ago, I think it was, when the currency devalued, at Zona, our revenue halved pretty much overnight. And we had an executive meeting to talk about what to do. And what we decided to do, rather than sort of say, well, how can we get our revenue back? We decided to reduce our prices, in some cases as much as 50%, because we exist to help communities thrive. So in tough times, rather than increase prices, we reduce them. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. What's interesting is 6 months after doing that, in real dollar terms, we've already overtaken where we were before. So sometimes with purpose, you don't have to be driven by profits, be driven by purpose, and you can get the same results. So in closing, people often talk about what will change. So I thought what I'd rather share is just 2 things that won't change. And I think the 2 things that I believe won't change are the importance of relationships and the importance of storytelling. So I'd really encourage all of you entrepreneurs here today to really get out of your comfort zone, go and meet people you've never met before, go and chat to people, listen to their stories. And on that note, I think I've done enough talking, so I think I'm really excited to do some listening today. But the task I was given today was to share with you one thing that successful entrepreneurs need to have. And I think there's lots of things. I think there's resilience, there's hard work, there's good fortune, there's commitment. But the one thing you do have to do is you have to start. So I'd encourage all of you entrepreneurs to take your big, bold ideas and to be brave enough to start. And good luck to all of you. And thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brad, you spoke about the one thing that you absolutely need as an entrepreneur. I was told the one thing that you need as an entrepreneur is a brand new Range Rover Sport SVR. Mr. Shriya, would you? It's an SVR. No? No.
So I was told one of the worst investments you can ever make is to buy a car. Really? So rather invest in something that can make you money. Build a plot, rent an asset. But no, I can't believe your best thing would be to buy a car.
Okay. All right. First question I know is from Mary from Media 365.
So my first question is, Zona has grown massively over the last couple of years. But what I really want to know is not so much about the growth of the business, but how have you had to change as an entrepreneur? How have you had to adapt from when you had the one room with the desk and the borrowed dining room furniture to now having this massive business that's actually in 3 countries?
I think the reality is when you start a business, you just really have to be resilient. You very rarely have options. It's either you go forward or you quit. Whereas now, in our case, we've literally just closed a $15 million Series B investment deal. So you go from scarcity to abundance. And I actually find my job today far more challenging than I did when I started the business. So I'm in an area that I've never done before. I've never been in a business this big. I've never been in a company with 100, I think we're at 130 people, and we're employing another 50 people in the next 3 months. So I think the way I look at it is every single year, I start the year by going, I've got to be 10 times better than I am today to even stay relevant. And I think that's the challenge. And I think it's really just having a learning mindset. I think knowledge is bad. And I think one thing we've done really well at Zona is we stole something from Google, which is the danger of hippos. So hippos are not the animals that you see in the river, but the highest paid person in any organization. So often you find in a company, if a hippo speaks, everyone else then suddenly shuts up and thinks that's the best idea. Where we've built a culture where it's the best idea as opposed to who said the best idea that takes the business forward. So I think it's a massive growth path, and I think any entrepreneur throughout their whole career will have to evolve and change and grow. And I think it's just embracing having a learning mindset.
You've said you've had to grow. Obviously, you've appointed somebody else as the chief executive. I think what was the hardest thing that you had to let go of personally? Because as an entrepreneur, it's very difficult to let go when you've been in control. So what was the hardest thing for you to let go of?
It remains hard, and I don't think I've let it go yet, but it's culture. I think understanding that culture is what it is, it's not what you want to be, but how to influence culture, how to create an environment where people feel empowered, people work in a circle where truth can be trusted, where there's empathy for people, where relationships matter, where your connection to your customer is empathetic and real. The thing that I most worry about is as we grow, you get further and further removed from your customer. Like when we started the business, I'd spend days on end with customers, whereas now it's a rare privilege. So that's probably the connection to the customer is probably the thing I fear most.
Okay. So you spoke about teams, and you started Zona with your brother, Brett. What I wanted to ask is, I run a family business too. We're a partnership of 4 siblings, and often that creates a different kind of dynamic. So what I wanted to ask is, well, how do you manage that relationship, and how has that made the business better, or has it?
Yeah, I think initially to start a business, whoever you start a business with, you have to just fundamentally trust them. And I think you can trust family. I think the danger for any family business, we have a concept called letting go of Lego at Zona, where sometimes you get so caught up in what you're doing, you want to protect it, you want to own it, whereas if you actually just stop playing and you give it to someone else and lift your head up, there's a whole bunch of bigger things that you could be doing. But yeah, I think in terms of working with my brother, we're 2 very fundamentally different people in terms of how we see the world. I think so, in a simple term, someone almost once said, if you cut our brains in half, that's the 2 of us, which is a bit too simplistic. But I think in terms of just, building teams, as a family business, you have to understand that I was given some great advice. Do you want to own a big piece of a small business, or a small piece of a big business? And we chose to own a small piece of a big business. We wanted to create a Pan-African business of substance, and we knew we couldn't do that by ourselves.
Fantastic. So that actually segues very nicely into my last question, and I think a lot of the entrepreneurs here could relate, starting or mid-sized. We entrepreneurs, we have trouble sleeping at night, because one of the greatest fears is this venture going to work out? Is it going to be sustained over the long term? So I guess the question I'm asking is, are you sleeping at night?
Yeah, I don't sleep much, but it's more, I think there's something in me that there's always a new challenge, there's always a new opportunity. I find it very difficult on a personal level when people say, Zona's a successful business. And in my mind, there's still so much more we've got to do. So I think I'm never satisfied. So yeah, sleep's, not always.
Okay, thank you so much, Brad.
But what I'd like to find out, I think there are 2 things. What was the major setback when you started that, and how did you rise to the challenge? Then the other thing, I think most of the times it has been spoken that you have to start small. Is it always the case? Thank you.
Major setbacks. I think there've been lots of them. I think, if I could give you one example, I think it was about 2011, we were talking We were trying to raise money, and we built a business plan, and we were quite nearing the end of the discussions, and just near the end, probably about a month away from signing our investment deal. Our biggest customer at the time was the World Food Program. We were doing voucher subsidies, electronic voucher subsidies. And I think at that point, Zambia was upgraded and their funding was cut. And we basically lost 80% of our revenue. And now we were standing in front of our potential investors going, well, that whole 5-year business plan we presented to you is actually worthless. But again, in setbacks, there's always opportunities. So what we said to the investors was, come back in 6 months, we'll repivot the business, we'll restart again, and then we'll see how it goes. So I think, I think you've got to accept in starting a business, there's constantly going to be setbacks, and you've got to be almost calm and resilient enough to then go and focus on what other options and other solutions there are to you. And I think the other question was, do you always have to start small? Was that it? And I think you've always just got to start with the cards you're given. So that would be my advice to anyone.
There's this notion that business plans out and business models in. What's your thinking? For entrepreneurs coming in, business plans, tedious, projections, cash flows, financial statements, voluminous documentation. Business model, what do you think? Thank you.
Well, challenging question. By the way, I love your scarf. So again, these are only my opinions, and if you speak to my CFO, who's one of my partners, he will fundamentally disagree with me. But I think financial statements are an output. It's what goes into them that makes them real. So the way I look at strategy is, whatever your strategy is, it's going to be wrong. So anyone with a 5-year plan, you're either going to hit above it or under it, but you're not going to hit it. So I think the thing that I focus on more than anything is what you set yourself your 5-year goals, fine, but what can you do every 90 days that's aligned with those? And what we always do is do questions of how might we? How might we prove this is right? How might we prove this is wrong? And again, it was quite challenging for us, but we raised this last $15 million on our business plan being one poster. And some investors will come in and go, there's no ways we're going to give you $15 million. We want 5-year projections. We want to know what you're going to do. And our answer was across the board is we believe in building a business around what our customers want, and we don't know what our customers are going to want in 2 years' time. I think what we were fortunate enough is over the last 4 years, our business had outperformed our Series A projections from 4 years ago, so we've got a lot of credibility in that investment space. But we refuse to be sort of drawn into too detailed a plan because there's so many moving goalposts and things change so quickly. But again, as I say, if you spoke to our CFO, who's my partner, he would totally disagree with most of what I just said.
All right, next question, the gentleman in the gray suit.
You said equity is your God. So I want to find out, I've been running a small business, and like you mentioned, the interest rates from our banks are so high. And usually I've gotten a few loans from different banks, and at the end of the day, after servicing the loan, I usually find that if I look at my working capital, it could be still the same, or there's a very small difference compared to the way it was before I actually got the loan itself. So the question is, what strategies did you put forth for you to actually, raise your capital? The time you said small, what strategies did you use, and what did you really do for you to actually raise that equity? Because I remember very well you mentioned that at some point you got equity from other people who are invested in the business, but that's not my interest. Now from the start, the time your business was small, how did you raise your equity, or rather how did you raise your working capital?
Cool. So I think our philosophy to raising capital is never raise capital when you need it to survive. You only raise capital when you're absolutely convinced you can use it to really grow. So we raised our $4 million investment in 2012, and we started in 2008. So for 4 years, we basically just bootstrapped it. And by bootstrapping, and I mean, the desk was the bricks from Baleni and the table from Kalingalinga. So we kept our expenses really low. We didn't pay ourselves wages. We put ourselves under huge personal, financial pressure. But ultimately, all we focused on was our customer and delivering value that someone would pay for. Because if someone pays you for something, you have revenue. If you have revenue, you have cash. I think I was once having my hair cut at a hairdresser, and there was a sign, and there's nothing to do when you're at a hairdresser, so I sort of read it lots and lots of times. But it was basically turnover's vanity, profit's sanity, cash flow's reality. So if you're a young entrepreneur, just get cash. Because if you've got cash, you've got options. And then if you've got options, you can say no to the bank. You can say, no to the investors. There is a right time to say yes to a bank, and there is a right time to say yes to an investor, but it must be on your terms. And the other thing we've always said is you never accept an investment from one offer. You have to create a competitive bidding environment where you as the entrepreneur take control back of the investment process by having various people wanting to invest in your business. If you're trying to almost get a Hail Mary pass of this one person, that one person will do what's best for them, which might not be best for you.
You, Brad, are a business hero, okay? You could tell from the questions that are coming, left, right, center, everyone wants to get a piece of you because you're a hero, okay? And they want a piece of that. If you're a hero, it means what you say and what you think and your opinion carries a lot of weight. And if you were to participate in a campaign, it would most likely be successful because a lot of people will be looking up to you and say, hey, that man is big. He's done ABC. He's a hero, okay? Just like we've seen models taken up in a lot of campaigns. Now, what am I driving to? Do you, Brad, personally, apart from Nyamuka Zambia, apart from Zona is a success, yes, undisputed. But apart from that, do you deliberately do something apart from helping people in the Zona circle, other entrepreneurs? Do you deliberately do something that uplifts other entrepreneurs? There's something I caught in your speech when you were talking. You said you spoke to some of these financial institutions and they told you their lending rate is about 40%. And you said, that's ridiculous. How could you survive? So you could see these injustices that are out there. And upcoming entrepreneurs will run into those and obviously will fail eventually. So do we have something deliberately coming from our business heroes like yourself and a lot more other people out there? You talked about Sipo Piri. He's one of the business heroes. I know that because I've seen the stuff that he's done. So do we have deliberate things that are coming from you business heroes to deliberately help upcoming entrepreneurs? Like, I would give kudos right now. I'll clap for Nyamuka Zambia for what they're doing. Because for a long time, people have complained about having great ideas and no capital. So if we are going to have a better and prosperous and a developed Zambia, we need you business heroes to be in the forefront, to run a campaign that would deliberately help upcoming entrepreneurs, and all these financial institutions, all the government, all the CSOs, everyone will be like, what these people are advocating for really makes sense, and it will develop Zambia in the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. Zambia will not be the same if we push entrepreneurship forth. So what are you deliberately doing as a business hero to help entrepreneurs?
I guess in a small way, in my business, that's what we do. I mean, we've helped kickstart 1,500 entrepreneurs. We provide the working capital, we provide the business. In terms of a personal level, I guess I'm here today sharing with the audience, and I think I totally agree with the sentiments around congratulations to the sponsors and organizers. I think 10 years ago, as a young entrepreneur or youngish entrepreneur, I would have loved to come to an event like this. But I think the challenge also is I've got a business to run. That's what I do. I'm more than happy to speak at events. I'm more than happy to meet with entrepreneurs. I'm always available to events like this because I think they are so great. But yeah, I think also it's a little bit about be the change you want to see. I think Gandhi said that once, but I'd encourage you guys to be role models in your own community. We have young, 70% of our agents here in Zambia are women under the age of 25. Some of them themselves have on an individual basis. I know there's a young lady in Osaka who's created over 25 outlets, has created 40 jobs herself. I think she earns over $10,000 a month in commissions. So yeah, those are more inspiring stories than I think even mine. So I think there are inspiring stories out there, and I think I think there was a great quote where someone said they're trying to work themselves out of a job, so they want to help foster an entrepreneurial environment so that entrepreneurs can take the stuff forward. So, yeah, I think you're right, but I think it's a whole movement, and it's certainly not going to be started by me. That can be another entrepreneur.
All right. Brad, I hear this over and over again. Most people, especially from the West who are in business, say when you're starting a business, don't go into it for the money, but for the passion. Is it practical in our environment here?
So money is important. Like don't get me wrong, money matters to me. Like I've got kids, I've got education, I've got health, I've got a mortgage. So I think when people say money doesn't matter, of course money matters. I think the other critical thing is to understand the environment. And the environment for a lot of young entrepreneurs here, the money will be a huge issue. But I think what the core message, what I think people are trying to say is eventually it becomes more than money if you're successful. And I think you want to make enough money that you're comfortable, but after that it's far better to be involved in something that has impact and purpose.
All right. A big hand for...
But trust me, it's the 20th of the month, I'm waiting for payday, so money matters.
All right. A big hand for Mr. Bradley.
Brought to you by Nyamuka Zambia and partner sponsors.
Nyamuka Zambia.